Thank you so much, Daniel. We'll be moving on to our next session, which is about listening and hearing from our fellow brothers and sisters in our respective East African countries on the discussions that we've had at the national level of the Internet Governance forums. We'll have, from Kenya, we'll have Grace from KICTANet. Tanzania will have Dr. Jim. Uganda will be Mr. Daniel Nanghaka. From Rwanda we'll have Chris Mulola, and Burundi will have Jean Paul Nkurunziza. Looking at the aspect that we have for time, I will straight away invite Daniel Nanghaka from Uganda to give us a presentation on Uganda. Yes. Daniel? Thank you so much. As we proceed, I will invite, as Daniel gets ready to set up of his PowerPoint to deliver the Uganda IGF reports, I will invite also Ms. Sarah Kiden. She's the Secretary General for the Uganda ISOC chapter, who will be the moderator for this session as we go towards the break. I will invite Ms. Sarah to take her seat up, and invite Daniel, Chris, Jean Paul, and Grace. We have seen that we are at an internet discussion event. We have 2 Wi-Fi access points available for those who want to connect. We encourage everyone to connect and share online experiences that you have here, as well as the discussions. To carry on online, there is the AfriCell Wi-Fi point, and the password is AfriCell. There is also the Liquid Telecom Wi-Fi. It doesn't require a key, just click on and log on and get the access. I'll hand over to our next session moderator, Sarah, to take us through the discussions of the national IGF reports.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see you all in large numbers. This being a public holiday, we didn't would get everyone here, but I'm happy to see all of you. I represent Internet Society Uganda chapter as the Secretary General. So this is East Africa IGF, and the national IGF's idea is supposed to feed into the East Africa IGF. So I'm sure all of you are interested in knowing what kind of discussions are going on, what kind of internet governance discussions are going on within the region. So I'm going to, since Uganda is hosting, I'm going to invite Daniel to tell us what kind of discussions we had at the forum last month, and then the other people will go on. Daniel?
Thank you very much, Sarah, for those welcome remarks. And I'd like to thank everyone who has stand up for the IGF. You know, even if it is a public holiday, you cannot spend a day without having the internet. There is no public holiday for the internet. I'll just simply walk straight to the report. We held our internet governance report on the 11th of August, and we had quite a number of stakeholders come up to join us in the theme of internet as an engine for development in Uganda. Every other day the internet is transitioning, and during that day, it was a very special day that we had over 125 participants coming and different stakeholders to join us during the forum, who included the Uganda Police, the WUGNET, CIPESA, government, NITA, POSPA, Uganda Law Commission, amidst others. Some of the key issues that were discussed during this forum were mainly three. That is internet infrastructure, innovations, local content in Uganda, internet rights in Uganda, critical internet infrastructure. I'll just simply go through what was discussed during each of those. From NITA, we had Mr. Paul Gabrano, who mentioned that with the growth of internet infrastructure, NITA is trying to connect the different MDAs, that is Ministries and Development Agencies, through the FBI project. And it's cutting across through all regions with the phase 3 that has so far taken place. And then OpenNet has also played a very major role as far as the service delivery in open communication and use of open data throughout. As there is a lot of advocacy in open data initiatives are taking place. Also, Africa hosts Africa Open Data in Dar es Salaam, we saw different stakeholders come together. And there's a very interesting quote that was given during the Youth IGF, and that came from WUGNET. There is need to have an interplay of gender issues that affect the ability of women to participate and adapt to ICT in the internet world. As always, gender is always being considered to streamline activities of the internet. But this time, we also saw UIGF bring in various ladies coming to join us in the forum. When it comes to internet rights, upon the UN declaration that everyone has a right to the internet, so it was one of the key issues that was discussed during the Internet Governance Forum. And one interesting step that has been taken by the authorities, whether we like it or not, crime will always remain crime. A big milestone was initiated by the Inspector General of Police when they made the formation of the Cyber Crime Unit, which at least gives Uganda a stepping stone to another level. And also, Uganda also launched the child online protection, which also helps to cut down crime as far as children is concerned, together with the forensics units of the Uganda Police. So, I'll mention briefly about the child online protection. Children, every other day, face turmoil on the internet. A lot of things happen. Internet Society played a very big role, together with NITA, to reach out to different schools, as was earlier mentioned. And this call, Child Online Protection Initiative, was done to enhance participation of children online. And an e-safety toolkit was developed and adopted. This can easily be accessed anywhere, and more awareness is being done as far as reaching out and usage of content online is concerned. And another interesting feature about Uganda is ranked among the top countries in formulating of laws and acts. But there's always a challenge in implementation of these laws. But at least I know we are struggling so hard to make sure that we reach out to people to adopt the laws. And some of these laws include the Data Privacy Acts, Computer Misuse Acts, and many other laws. Child sexual images are being censored online. And we've seen two, at least an example that came up was MTN Uganda, who is being used as an example in censor amongst the ISPs in Uganda to block access of sexual content online. Another very interesting example comes just from our next neighbors here, Kenya, in the Safaricom. They opened up a mobile application called the Guardian application enables parents and all guardians to monitor and have control over content that their children access online. All these are all milestones that are being taken to make sure that the internet is secure through and through by each and everyone. I'll just bring a very interesting quote on net neutrality, which was one of the discussions that we had. There is a change in the market behavior taking place among large access networks and content providers, which would undermine, potentially eliminate internet stability. It was also noted that net neutrality services had been banned in multiple countries, including China, Brazil, USA, to mention amongst others. That was one of the quotes that was mentioned by Carl Spencer, who manages the UISP. If we're an advocate for an open internet, what do we need the open internet to look like? This is where net neutrality plays a very important role. And when the discussion was geared towards the day, we discussed so much about the critical internet infrastructure status updates. Among the things that we mentioned was the IANA transition, IPv6 deployment, and the CCTLD. We had Douglas mention about the current IANA transition strategies. This is a strategy that is always happening in everyday discussions until, as was elaborated briefly in the opening remarks by Bob, and we are trying to advocate that more stakeholders come get involved in the drafting of this policy and this strategy such that we can have a better transition. From Africa, we had Ernest Nanghaka, who is a policy liaison, who made a presentation on the current adoption of an implementation of IPv6 instead of IPv4. As time goes, there is a depletion of IPv4 addresses on what is the future of connectivity. Definitely, we have only one big option, and that is IPv6 address allocation, which is currently being implemented by different ISPs. Uganda launched this IPv6 strategy in 2013, and currently different ISPs are taking on the challenge to include their different networks. If you go to the universities, every network that has been set up by radio is running IPv6 directly. How can you check it? Once you go and then you look at your IP addressing systems, in case you run some of those technical commands, like IP config, and you'll see the address allocations amongst the universities. Another interesting discussion that always comes up within the Uganda Internet Governance Forum is the CCTLD. Who is the owner of the CCTLD? Who has the right? If it is the government, how is the government allocating this? But one interesting thing came up by Kenneth from the Ministry of ICT, who updated the members that the government is planning to adopt a not-for-profit organization which will help to do a parallel run with the private sector until the capacity to take up responsibility is formed. And further to mention, the process formulation will be completed within the next 2 months. Hopefully right now I think it's like 1 month to go. We shall be getting an update about that. Apart from that, the recommendations that came from the new IGF was there was a need to make legislations more supportive of online freedoms, and there is also need to call for increased collaborations between the civil society, private sector, academia, government in addressing internet matters in Uganda. And also the ISPs should start sharing infrastructure as opposed to setting up their own so as to reduce end user costs. As we have been seeing with Uganda Telecom, MTN, so to be able to create a new infrastructure, it's easier for shared infrastructure to save on resources. And the way forward was mainly to the MOICT, the ministry, and NITA, and Uganda Communications Commission were requested to come up with a national strategy on child online protection, as we held a summit in Uganda on Africa on child online protection. So Uganda still takes the lead in developing these strategies. And also the civil society needs to raise awareness on the importance of protecting internet rights, just like the offline human rights, much as government is working on increasing internet access in the country. Internet freedoms should be at the top of all this. I would like to say that that's my last slide. Thank you very much.
thank you, Daniel. Those were very interesting discussions. It's nice to hear about the projects that the Uganda chapter is doing, topics like freedoms online, gender issues, and actually it's true that these days when you call people for meetings, we are having more ladies participating in these internet governance discussions, which is a good thing. But the thing I have picked out from your report, and something that Bob said earlier, is now governments are, participating and they're taking part. We have the Uganda police, and I think if we have everyone, participating in these discussions, then we'll have something that's helpful for all of us. I would like to invite Grace Bomu from Kenya to tell us about the Kenya IGF.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Grace Mutung'u, but my friends call me Bomu. I'm affiliated with KICTANet. KICTANet is the Kenya ICT Action Network. It is a platform where stakeholders from the different sectors, academia, government, civil society, private sector, and users in general come together to talk about issues that are ongoing, emerging issues in the Kenya ICT policy space. And it has been there for, for quite a number of years, and I have been fortunate enough to grow professionally through the Kenya ICT network. So I'm just basically going to tell you about the Kenya IGF. My presentation will focus on the organizing processes, how we organize, and then the key issues. Thank you. And the key issues that came up, and some recommendations that we thought that we should bring to this forum. So, like I said, KICTANet is a community where all stakeholders come together. So this year, some people came together and thought that they needed to organize the IGF, because last year it was organized by ISOC Kenya. However, because of some reforms that are ongoing in that in ISOC Kenya, it had to be taken up by the community. And there was a call for topics in KICTANet, and the community in KICTANet gave us what they thought were their priority areas, or the areas they'd really like to discuss locally. And after the call for topics, I'll show you the topics later, the topics that we chose. There was fundraising, and the interesting thing about the fundraising process is that we ended up creating partnerships with the people who funded the IGF. Some of the partners who have supported us even all through to the EIGF, Kenneth, which is the Kenya Network Information Center, our local CCTLD administrator. There was TESPOC, there was ISOC Africa Bureau, there was the ICT Authority, there was KICTANet itself that provided all the logistical and administrative support, among others. Before the face-to-face IGF, we had online discussions. Unfortunately, they did not go very well as planned, because this is the week, 20th to 27th July, is the week that one of our greatest exports as Kenyans, His Excellency the President of the United States, was coming back home. And so there was a lot of disruption in our, in our social life. And the interesting thing that we also noted is that most people access internet from their employers, and most of the online discussions happen during working hours, or during the break from working hours. So it was not as vibrant as it usually is, but the topics were inclusiveness and diversity, cybersecurity and trust, internet economy, critical internet resources, We also discussed emerging issues such as the YSIS and also the IANA transition and also openness. Another interesting thing that happened during the online discussions is that we've had one dominant player in the mobile sector. This is Safaricom, widely covers the whole of Kenya. But during that same week, there was news that one of our local banks, Equity Kenya, was coming up with Equitel, which is a thin SIM technology that would be embedded into SIM cards and so on and so forth. So this really took a big part of our discussion in internet economy, where people were expressing their views about the security. Is it secure? Is it a good online transaction? And so on and so forth. The face-to-face IGF took place on 31st July, as has already been stated. We had around 120 participants on site. Then we had remote participation. There was a live stream, courtesy of ISOC Africa Bureau. There was very good representation across the sectors. We called it a revival because there was a revival of multi-stakeholderism. There was government, there was a private sector well represented, there was a civil society, and then gender, which for Kenya is a very important thing nowadays. We had the two-thirds gender rule was lived up to, and then we also had a good number of young people who were coming to the IGF for the first time, college students, university students, which was also a very good thing for us because we hope that we are hand-holding them to take over the process in the future. Governments, in their participation, which is a key thing, their participation, leave alone what they say, is a big thing, was represented by the ICT authority as well as the regulator, which is the Communications Authority of Kenya. They mostly give us information on what they are doing. Now we are looking at the regulation, they give us sector statistics, and we realized that there are a lot of initiatives to change the legal frameworks that some of us may not have been aware of, and it was good that government was there to tell us that this is what we are doing, please come in and give us your views. The private sector participation, their focus was on policy development because there are a lot of emerging issues such as net neutrality, which I note was also discussed in Uganda. So most of the private sector players may not have a position yet on net neutrality, but they think it's an important discussion that should be happening. And there was also the issue of loss of critical infrastructure, and we noted that Kenya was in the process of developing a critical infrastructure bill that since then, since our IGF, the bill is already out for public comment. Then we also, well, the ICANN reform process was not from private sector as such, because ICANN is more multi-stakeholder, but we also had about the ICANN reform process. From the civil society, we had about concerns on human rights protection. There was, there's always a concern about how far the government is coming into our space, online spaces. And then there was also the concern about public participation in governance, because there are so many things happening in our ICT, in our local ICT sector, yet do we have meaningful public participation? For example, there is the proposed EAC e-transactions bill. There was the Africa Cyber Security and Data Convention. How much public participation was there in those processes? Then for users, it was mostly learning about the IGF processes. Like I explained, they were mostly college students and young adults who were just coming into the process. But they had very interesting views on how the internet affects them and how the internet could be used for development. So the key resolutions from our meeting was that the government needs to facilitate more meaningful participation. We recognize that there is always a call for consultation from the government, but there was a feeling that it should be more meaningful. Then the ICT fraternity was called upon to continue to participate in policy development because there are ongoing processes such as review of the Kenya Information and Communications Act, which is our basic law. Then there was a call for enhanced linkages and collaboration among stakeholders. There was also a call for Kenya to develop a position on WISEs before we go for the meeting in November. Then there was a call for private sector to continue to support initiatives around IGF. And for this meeting especially, we thought there is need for more multi-stakeholderism within the region for issues that are regional. And as we have heard from the Permanent Secretary, there are a lot of regional initiatives in this sector. And so it would be important moving forward to have more multi-stakeholderism across the region. And one of the issues we noted at our IGF was the East African Community Electronic Transactions Bill, which by now has already undergone second reading. And we hope that moving forward, and as one of the resolutions from this meeting, we can have a coordinated approach towards these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I'm so impressed that you had so many remote participants, 188, and yet on site you had 120. I think that's why we need to continue these discussions, because you see many people are participating online. Thank you for your presentation. And about multi-stakeholderism, I think Bob will explain later what it really means. I would like to invite someone from Tanzania. So Dr. Jim Yonazi cannot make it today, but we have Kenneth Simbaya who will tell us about the Tanzania IGF.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. That is our school. Okay, very good. Like how the moderator had said, this was supposed to be presented by Dr. Jimmy Yonas, who unfortunately we are not having him here, but I'll try and represent what we had as Tanzania National Internet Governance Forum. I will also talk about the organization of our Internet Governance Forum, topics which were covered, and what are our priorities as a country, and recommendations from the forum. But before I go deep into what I want to say, on behalf of Tanzania community, I would love to apologize to the East African internet stakeholders. As you all might be aware that Tanzania was supposed to host the Internet Governance Forum last year, but unfortunately we couldn't do it. The good thing is we wanted to organize the Internet Governance Forum. That's the good thing. The bad thing is we couldn't organize due to constraints which were beyond our control. You know, Tanzania is a home for everyone. Would have loved to have you all in Tanzania, but you can plan to climb Mount Kilimanjaro today. If you wake up sick tomorrow, you won't be able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So, but we'll still find space to make sure that we revenge. we really need to do this, and we are still having that desire to make sure that we are having this forum in our country. Like it was said before, the Internet Governance Forum in Tanzania is hosted by a steering committee which is formed by various stakeholders coming together who have formed something called National Internet Governance Forum, or NIGF. This NIGF was formed in 2012. It brings people from various walks of life. As we all know that internet is, everyone is affected by internet. Be it a farmer in a rural village there, a student, a child, and so forth and so forth. And for us, we thought that it's important these people who in one way or another are affected by internet development, then they should form a committee which will be overseeing issues to do with internet in our country. So this was formed. We are lucky that this steering committee is hosted by a union of Tanzania press clubs, which is an umbrella board which brings together electronic, print, and photojournalists in the country. So this is hosting. UTPC basically implements resolutions and directives which are issued by the steering committee. In other way, it does the day-to-day issues pertaining to what the NIGF wants to do. And the NIGF steering committee focuses then on policy issues. Now, talking of the 2015 Internet Governance Forum in Tanzania, those who were there, informal feedback had it that it was an unprecedented one. Unprecedented in a sense that looking to the previous NIGF in our country, they thought that that one was very, very successful in terms of inclusiveness. Like I said before, that we tried to make sure that everyone who in one way or another is affected by internet or has an interest with internet is participating. We couldn't manage to bring all of them. You know, when you look in a community, you have if you do a cross section of a community, there are so many people. We couldn't bring everyone, but it was an open forum. It was attended by almost 50 people, and it was well. In terms of gender, we still had few women or female participants. It's one of the challenges we observed, but again, young people, old, technical people, everyone was there. So in terms of attendance, looking to that part or aspect of participation, we thought it was one of the topic was online child protection, which was presented by Dr. Jimmy Onaz, and it's becoming one of the hot topic in our country, considering what is happening when it comes to online child abuse and things of that kind. The discussion concluded that we need to empower children and other internet users to make sure that children are protected online and so forth. Another topic was on national security and IDs, identity cards. Our country is embarking on giving Tanzanians citizenship cards. Now, people wanted to know what features or what kind of data will that ID contain. So we had somebody from NIDA who presented on that. Perhaps I shouldn't dwell much, this is of interest to Tanzania. But another topic which was hot was our country has just passed a cyber security law and electronic transactions, which is hotly debated in our country. People are thinking that perhaps it's good to have the law, but people look at that law as if it's aiming to muzzle people, to shut people from interacting. Those who have done the analysis say there are good clauses, yes, but there are also a lot of bad clauses which should be omitted. And the way how this law was passed is like most of Tanzanians are not happy. It was passed under the emergency bill. So people had no opportunity to contribute in terms of improving it, giving their thoughts and so forth. It has clauses like, if I send you a text or whatever which is unsolicited, I commit a crime. So if I send you a text, I say good morning, if on that day you are not happy with me, you can sue me, because that one is unsolicited text. And what is bad again is that it's not a civil case, it's a criminal, which means if you don't want to sue me, your next is a law enforcer wants to represent you. He can just sue me and call you to be a witness, you see. So that was discussed, and we have petitioned that to the court through the Tanzania Human Rights Defenders Coalition and other people, to make sure that we are not wanting that to be repealed, but we are wanting those clauses which are unconstitutional to be repealed. So that is what was discussed on cyber law and electronic transactions. The good thing is we need that kind of law because we had no such law previously. And considering how cyber crimes are committed, having that law is very important. All we need is that the law shouldn't be trumping or trying to suppress other rights, as we all know that freedom of expression and things of that kind are one of the most important rights on human rights. Another topic which was discussed was internet development from Tanzania telecommunication perspective. Statistics are showing that internet development in our country is growing at a rapid speed, and there is a need to make sure that people are benefiting from it and making advantage from it. So finally, a recommendation. What recommendations do we get from the forum? One of the recommendations which we were given is that we need to continue strengthening our National Internet Governance Forum, because as I said, despite the fact that UTPC is hosting us, but we haven't yet given the Union of Tanzania Press Club a memorandum of understanding, like to formalize this thing. UTPC is doing it from a goodwill. So if next time the board of directors decides that they don't see an advantage of hosting this, then we can be discarded from their books. So perhaps in terms of strengthening our NIGF, there's a need of having a memorandum of understanding with the Union of Tanzania Press Club. Involving more stakeholders. Like we said, Internet Governance Forum is an open forum. So participants urge that we need to continue involving more stakeholders so that you can tap from their knowledge, but also use it as a platform to empower people. Another recommendation was that the forum need to be responsive to citizen needs. When they say need to be responsive to citizen needs, this came up after some of the participants sat in one of the presentations and they couldn't get anything. Like here, if nobody is coming from the ICT things, when it comes to TTCD errors, white spaces, I think we are leaving others behind. So perhaps we need to, as a country, we were told, we need to innovate and come up with a proper way of organizing these kind of meetings, as in Perhaps when it comes to some of the sessions, we are having parallel sessions whereby people are going to sessions which they think either they need to understand something or they can contribute something to that. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Kenneth. We still hope you can host the forum next year or the following year. I would just like to pick on your last point of ensuring that meetings are responding to citizen needs, because it makes no sense if you just come, sit here, discuss, and then go back and do nothing about it. But thank you for your presentation. I would like to invite Chris Mulola from Rwanda to tell us about the Rwanda IGF.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Mulola. I'm from Rwanda, and I am the ISOC Rwanda president, and I'm also an information security consultant. Talking about our national IGF, we had a national IGF in 2014, and we had around 120 participants. The language was Kinyarwanda, which is our mother tongue. And the issue that were discussed were mainly about the local content development and bringing our content home. So the opening remarks were given by our Honorable Minister Jean-Philbert Nsengimana, and in his speech, he had to get everyone to remember that the IGF is the forum where everybody discusses internet issues, and the people discussing the internet issues, like the academic institutions, telecom, and government, and other people, they should all be there to discuss these matters. And in his speech, he said that there were three main important points. He said one of the things were how do we plan to build a vibrant ICT community in Rwanda? And he highlighted some points like policy outcomes, serving members, understanding the gap. And then there was how can we build a vibrant internet community? How does it take to have, what does it take to have a good content company, and what can the government do about that? And like I said, the IGF is the only place where we discuss issues, and it's a unique platform where participants consider the progress of ICT sector as a step towards the national development. That's where we have to renew our strategies, partnerships, and all the stuff like those, our Vision 2020. The target, why did we choose to have this theme as creating an enabling environment for the development and growth of local content? The reason why, it was because there was this detection of Rwanda's internet content that was growing faster, and the potential for an even bigger contribution to our national GDP yet to be unleashed. So we just working around the local content development and bringing the content home to see how we can increase work more in the economy and make it develop. So one of the issues that were noticed is the awareness. We have noticed that in countries like Brazil, USA, those other developed countries where people are more aware of what is going on, there is this tendency of like things work out so well, people discuss issues, and we found out that if we keep like the IGF and some other conferences and get more participation of people, we can achieve a lot. So again, there is this issue, around the local content. It's the supply versus the demand. So how do we, what is needed, and how do people deliver for that? So the things that there has been a report from the ISOC community, the global ISOC. They came to Rwanda and they did a study, and the final report was like our content market was kind of a mess. It was a mess. It was messed up, and then we were kind of thinking about how to correct that and see how we can make things work. The thing, the fact that we host out becomes very costly to us for ISPs to bring the content home. Again, the content is not safe. Like anybody can walk up to a hosting service provider in those other countries, and we request, say, a copy of the data. So it's not secure at all. So the question is, what is the government doing about this? So the example was like there is a local newspaper by the name of Umuseke. It's an online newspaper. So we were just, the example was like this online newspaper writes for Rwandans, for local people, but the content is in our local language and it's outside. So then what do we do to get content like from this Umuseke be home so that it can be accessed locally and at a cheaper price? So, and again, what happens for the person or the company that is hosting that Umuseke content? How does it work? How does it survive? Because there is a pricing issue, and here we were just wondering how we can make this work. So the government, what the government is doing, as the minister said, is trying to see how they can address challenges, to see how they can work around to get all these issues resolved and make people feel like what is required is getting the content home, and see how we can make that work. But again, it's a very complicated issue because some people don't seem to understand why we need to have the content home, and some other people just bring in some other issues like security again. They say, we bring it home, it's not going to be secure. So it's a lot of issues, but the government's doing all it can to get things moving ahead. After that, there was the CEO of RICTA, and he had to talk about the Rwanda IGF objectives, like what do we do, why do we have the IGF? And so there is the key elements that he discussed about. Those were like the nature and purpose for the IGF, the inclusiveness and participation of the people around, and again the main objectives of that IGF. So under the nature and purpose, he highlighted that the IGF serves to bring people together from various stakeholder groups as equals to discuss public policies relating to the internet, and on the inclusiveness and participation point, he said that it is very important for all of us to participate in the IGF meetings, local and other international meetings like the Net Mondial, ICANN, etc. But again, there was this issue of more support is required, is needed, so that more people get to participate in these meetings. And there is more awareness that is needed, and there is more financial support to get these people to those other different meetings. So the Rwanda IGF objectives are just for the Rwanda IGF objectives. For the Rwanda IGF objectives, locally, what is Rwanda? What Rwanda is doing? He mentioned that the infrastructure for Rwanda currently is all right, it's okay, so we have everything. But again, we have this issue of local content. We don't have enough local content. And then he said that the more we host outside, the more expensive it turns for everybody. The consumers and the service providers. So there was again the CEO of BSC Broadband System Corporation. He also talked around the local content. It's almost the same issues. It's we need to get to a knowledge-based economy. We have good infrastructure, and then we have challenges. The challenges the high cost of transit capacity, like I said, and then we have an issue again of engineers, scarcity of local skills, and then low occupancy rates. It's people don't go to host locally. They don't go to the hosting service providers who are local, and because of that, pricings are always high. So we have achieved stuff we have the Rhinex, which is our internet exchange point. It's running. We have a copy of iRoot server. We have the Google Cache. We have Akamai. We have the .rw running nights available at affordable rates. So all this will just help in the developing of the local content. So again, there is more content to be created. And the recommendations, like I said in the beginning, for our national IGF, what we're doing, we just do the meetings in our local language. And there is a lot of stuff that we are prioritized. We are making as a priority to help with the development of the content. So there is different recommendation, like I said, and for the events we'll be having very soon, we have Transform Africa, which is will be happening October 19 to the 21st of October. We have the IGF happening at the end of the month of October. There is Global IGF. So that's more or less what we have been busy with in Rwanda. It's just all about the local content. And then for the next IGF, there will be other issues that will be discussed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Because of time, I'm just going to invite Jean-Paul Nkurunziza to give us a summary about the Burundi IGF.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm Jean-Paul Nkurunziza. I'm from Burundi. I'm the deputy chair of Internet Society, the Burundian chapter of Internet Society. So, as you may know, we have not organized the IGF Burundi 2015 because of some instability that occurred in Burundi, but we used to organize events in past years, and we even hosted the East Africa IGF 2013. So now, what I'm going to do is to provide some updates about the internet ecosystem and progress in Burundi since 2013. About access to ICT in Burundi, the statistics provide us that the mobile penetration rate was 31% in June 2014. This is those are the statistics from the National Regulatory Authority called AM CDT. And in December 21st, the internet, December 31st, 2014, the internet penetration was estimated at 4.9% according to Internet World Stats. And about those updates, we got in March 2015 a new telecom company called Viettel Burundi. It joined some pre-existent ones, such as Onamo, which is state-owned, and Afistel Tempo, which is no more operating now, and Econet and Ucom now are forming one group, as well as Smart Mobiles. And there are some internet service providers such as Simbaya, KICTAnet, and SpiderNet, and USAN. Now I'm going to speak about the progress made by BBS project, the Burundi backbone system. It is a national backbone infrastructure. It was launched in January 2014 and now covers all 17 districts of Burundi. This is a big progress, and BBS is a consortium of country telecom operators, and these operators were supported by World Bank and the government of Burundi. And we have some good results now, and we have now faster internet. 3G operator cover almost all the districts of Burundi. And the prices has started to drop down. I gave here an example. When I used to buy a bundle of 2 GB at 20,000 Burundi francs in 2014, now I can get this same service at 14,000. It is less than $10. Now we have got the limited. The new company is offering RSTP, real-time streaming protocol, where it can broadcast some television online, such as the national television, France 24, and so forth. So I consider that as a success of private partnership project, success of PPP, because it involved many stakeholders. The new update is this Burundi Internet Exchange called Burundi X. It is launched in March 2014 in Bujumbura. It was launched in the framework of Axis project of the African Union with support of ISOC. This was after a national working group for this internet exchange point was set up, and a non-profit organization in charge of making it work was set up and comprised many stakeholders. There are telecom companies such BBS, SpiderNet, and so forth. As well, the Central Bank of Burundi was involved, as well as the Régie des Eaux, which is the water and electricity company, and the CETIC, this is a government secretary of internet of ICT, in charge of ICT. Then the Burundi signed a memorandum of understanding with the University of Burundi, and now it is hosted at one of its campuses. And at its launch, we got a promise by Mr. Popens Dairagije, who is the chairman of Burundi X, that Google is intending to install a cache on it. Let me say something about the regulatory environment. On July 15, 2014, all mobile SIMs have been to be registered. So also a new mobile telephone taxation structure started on December 2014, and there was a new tax of 42 Burundian francs per minute for local calls. This was aiming at increasing the government revenues, but also it, as a consequence, the prices of telecommunication went a bit higher. Then there were some protests, but these prices are still there. Also, about the internet, let me notice that Facebook and WhatsApp were shut down during the period of demonstration, during the electoral period of Burundi. This is when some mobile users used to install some VPN to overpass this blockade. So this is what I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jean-Paul, for your presentation. Because of time, I'm going to request you to just note down your questions. We will ask them later because we're trying to catch up with the next session. We'll have a 10-minute tea break and then come back for the next session. I'd like to invite Emma to come and proceed. Yeah. Okay. Gloria is coming. Thank you very much. Sorry again for not taking your questions right now, but we'll have everybody in and we'll have the questions later. We are just going to step out briefly. We'll take a group photograph and then we'll have tea, and you can carry in your tea and come back to the session. So, can we take the photograph from here instead? Do you think? Or outside? Outside is better, I think, for the numbers. So let's go outside and then we'll...
We just need to take I'm really informed by the photographer, there's a provision of the terrace. We don't have to go down, it's just next door. And we'll do it in 5 minutes.
So thank you, our presenters. I think we can now take our seats. Due to public demand, they say we do it here. So let's all stand here. We'll have a few... Sorry, please come. I know you don't like to leave your comfort zone.
Iko wapi? Anji? Nitoe kamera.